Welcome to Less Than 12 Parsecs, the fastest Star Wars podcast in the...
Hey, it's Tim. Sorry for the interruption, but before I start this episode, I feel like I need to tell the backstory here. I could put all this info on 12parsecsPodcast.com or in the show notes, but really, who reads that stuff? So it all started a week or two ago when my old pal, Jason Collier from the Expanded Fandomverse podcast, tweeted about his other show, the radio drama Retrospective. He had mentioned me in the tweet, and so as people replied, I saw all of that as well. You know how Twitter works. Well, one guy tweeted something along the lines of, "How have I not been on this show yet? How, I ask you, how?" Well, apparently he's a giant radio drama fan. You know what? I love this kind of enthusiasm. Also, when I started Less Than 12 Parsecs, one of my ideas was to have anyone who wanted to come on the show to be a guest. Anyone who asked. So, I wrote back to the guy and said, "Hey, I can't speak for Jason and I can't speak for the radio drama Retrospective, but you are welcome to come on my little show and chat." The gentleman said yes, and a few days later we were chatting over Skype. And man, oh man, what a great conversation it was. I love talking Star Wars with people I don't know, and that was my original idea behind my old show, the Expanded Fandomverse. Well, since his tweet was about the radio dramas, we used that as a jumping off point in our conversation, and it was a great conversation. Unfortunately, having a 3-minute show isn't the best platform for in-depth conversation. So, actually, in fact, we were chatting for about 30 minutes before I even hit record. Okay, so this is the part where I have to make an embarrassing confession here. As I was chatting with this guy, I had the nagging feeling in the back of my head like I already knew him. There was something familiar about his voice and his insights and his humor. I wanted to stop and say, "Hey dude, do I know you?" But that felt like it would have been rude. It wasn't until he introduced himself on the show, even though I had read his name on Twitter, that I realized I was talking to Bobby Roberts. The Bobby Roberts. Now, Bobby is a former Star Wars podcaster from Full of Sith, and he still pops up on a lot of great Star Wars podcasts these days. In my defense, I listen to a lot of Star Wars podcasts, and there's so many great shows out there that I jump around. I'll admit, there's very few shows that I listen to consistently, simply because I just don't have the time. Sadly, that's the story of my life. I never have enough time for anything. So anyway, that's the backstory I wanted to share. I wanted to tell you why I have this particular guest on the show, and I wanted to tell you what a big jerk I am for not realizing who I was chatting with. So, anyway, sit back and enjoy about 6 minutes of Bobby Roberts and I chatting. If you want to hear more from Bobby, and I know you do, check out Star Wars 7x7 with my pal Alan Voivod. Bobby was recently a guest on 2 episodes of that show, and hey Alan, I swear, Bobby and I recorded this before you had released your episode, so coinky dink. Anyway, enjoy this chat with Bobby Roberts.
Here we go again.
When I started Less Than 12 Parsecs, one of the ideas I had was that anyone, anywhere, at any time could come on the show. And you know what? Someone asked out of the blue on Twitter, "Hey, can I come on the show?" So thanks for coming on the show. Want to tell folks who you are and what you do and all that good stuff?
My name is Bobby Roberts. I used to help out with a Star Wars podcast called Full of Sith. I've guested on a number of Star Wars podcasts. I'm not going to get all of them, but just for example, there's Coffee with Kenobi, Star Wars Report, Tashi Station, Fangirls Going Rogue. Like there's a ton of them. Like chances are, if you've
made the rounds.
No, I'm constantly making the rounds, and you know why that is? It's because I can't shut up. Because I can't shut up, and I've been around since 1999, and it's sort of a really bad habit for me at this point. So when I saw that you had tweeted out that you had been part of a show that was talking about the radio dramas, I, with no shame, no guile, and nothing even closely replicating decorum, just jumped into your mentions like, "How am I not in on this?" And then you were like, "How about you be on my show?" And I was like, if there's a microphone there, then I will absolutely be on your show, because Lord knows the only thing I love more than the sound of my own voice is Star Wars.
The show you were talking about is the radio drama Retrospective, hosted by my pal Jason Collier, part of the Expanded Fandomverse network of shows. And yeah, I think you'd be a great fit for that show. I'm going to put a good word in with Jason for you, hopefully get you on that show. But for right now, let's talk about your love of the radio dramas. What makes them so much special? What makes them so special to you?
For me, it's that I discovered them almost entirely on accident. And the idea of discovering anything related to Star Wars on accident, that there is something hidden about this thing that has been as popular as it's been for 40 plus years, is sort of a minor miracle, especially to the level at which I was obsessed with it in my late teens, early 20s. To have then sort of just tripped over it at a Borders one day. I saw a box set of the cassettes, because this is how old I am. Even in my early 20s, they're still selling cassettes at a Borders. Like, this is probably, a foreign language to a lot of people right now listening. So I see this box set. I'm like, how do you make a radio drama out of something that is so visual? And then I put the cassettes in my tape deck in my old 1984 Cutlass Supreme, and I found out. And that was intoxicating to know that you could actually have Star Wars live literally inside your head. And that's part of what made it so endearing to me, is that you could literally inject it straight into your brain in a way that you couldn't with the movies.
Now, you and I think, are original trilogy generation guys. So you didn't hear these as a kid, did you? This was something new later in life, right?
Yeah, no, I think I'd seen a stray ad for it on NPR, but I was one of those 80s kids that was, we were junk food kids. You didn't listen to NPR. Talk radio was weird. Like, that was something, for grandma and grandpa. So I never even, thought of checking it out, and partially because of that dumb old bias that I had. Like, we were trained to believe that black and white was inherently bad. You had to colorize a movie before you could watch it, and we were trained to believe that the image is worth more than the content. That was part of the 80s ethos. And so I was like, taking the imagery away from Star Wars and putting it on radio, that's never going to work. But it turns out it works beautifully. It works almost better than the movies do, because it sort of makes the storytelling just that much more intimate. Like, you don't have to sort of project yourself onto the images that you see. You are the projector. You're making the images in your head, and that sort of makes them all the more important to you and all the more endearing to you.
Well, I knew this was going to be hard, but we're running out of time. Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts? Just one last little nugget you want to share with people out there about anything?
Anything? Seriously, if you can track down the radio dramas, track them down and have that universe opened up to you on a scale much vaster than you even have ever imagined Star Wars could be. Seriously, it opens up an entire galaxy of possibilities, opportunities, variations on what Star Wars can be. And not just the regular NPR Star Wars radio dramas. There are a lot of radio dramas out there, even fan-made ones. Radio drama is a very vital medium right now. A lot of the podcasts that are getting national attention aren't really podcasts. They're radio dramas that you can download. Everything old becomes new again. And I love that through Star Wars, people are rediscovering radio drama and making their own and breathing new life into Star Wars. I would recommend that you seek out as many radio dramas as you can find, not just Star Wars, but radio dramas in general, and sort of get a deeper, more richer understanding on storytelling, because that absolutely will happen the more radio dramas you listen to.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you have any links you want to share, like where people can find you, social media, that sort of thing?
Yeah, just you can find me on Twitter at any point. I'm on fairly frequently at Bobby Roberts PDX. That's basically it. Just hit me up there, and I'll feel free to share an opinion with you, because I can't stop myself.
All right.
You've been listening to Less Than 12 Parsecs, the fastest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy, part of the expanded Fandomverse network of shows. For links and show notes, visit our website, TwelveParsecsPodcast.com. Follow Less Than 12 Parsecs on Twitter at 12parpod, on Instagram at 12parsecsPodcast, on Tumblr at 12parsecsPodcast, and find us on Facebook as well. And please let us know what you think. Email us at 12parsecsPodcast@gmail.com.
Hey, don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher to enter the amazing merchandise end-of-the-year giveaway contest we're holding. I really should have come up with a better name for this thing.